So it's called The Blessed Life. So as a kind of an opening question, what is the secret to living a blessed life? What is the secret to enjoying life, being able to handle the ups and downs, being able to face the difficult situations? Is that even possible? Can you live a blessed life? Well, I would say the answer would be yes. And there is a secret to it, and it's really not much of a secret. And everybody knows the Apostle Paul, okay? Wrote large parts of the New Testament, and he had that incredible encounter with Jesus where he was actually trying to persecute followers of Jesus, trying to get them arrested, and suddenly Jesus appears to him in this flash of light and just has this amazing life-changing event, and he becomes one of God's people, one of Jesus' followers. Well, later on in life, as he's writing these letters, which we now have as most of the New Testament, he's writing one of them from a prison cell. He's in a dungeon, okay? Just try and picture the scene. We're not talking about, Young Offenders Institute in 2011 that's pretty cushy with Sky TV. We're talking a long time ago in a very underdeveloped part of the world, stinking, wet, cold dungeon cell. And he's in chains. And yet, when you read his letter to the Philippians, he's always calling people to rejoice. He's wrote this from a prison cell, in chains, in a dungeon. He's calling people to rejoice. Like, how can that man be happy and satisfied in that situation? Isn't it a bit bizarre? Well, this is a clue as to how this is the answer, as to how he could write those kind of things, even though he was in these horrible circumstances. In chapter 4 of his letter, he says, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. That's a pretty mad way to start a sentence. It doesn't matter what circumstances I face, what happens to me in my life, I have learned how to be content. If what we were talking about tonight was a potion, something in a bottle, and you had that, you would be a billionaire if you could advertise on TV. This potion is the secret to being content in every circumstance of life. Yours for $20.95. You would be an absolute multimillionaire, wouldn't you? Because people want to know, how can I find contentment even through the hard times? He says, I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. Two ends of the scale. Hardly anything, a lot of stuff. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. That's a mad thing to say. Whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. And here's the key. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength. I can do all this through Jesus who gives me strength. He's on the floor of a prison cell, surrounded by his own crap, probably. In chains, it's cold, it's wet, and yet he says, I can deal with this situation. How? What's the key? Knowing Jesus. Through Him who gives me strength. That relationship is the key to living the blessed life, hence the keyhole on the screen. So the way of blessing is the way of knowing Jesus, having a relationship with Jesus. So what does Jesus say about life? If His way is the way of being blessed, what does Jesus say about life? And that's where we're at in Matthew 5. It's called the Sermon on the Mount, and this is the biggest collection of Jesus' teachings lumped together in one block. It's like, people have called it the greatest hits. You know when bands release the greatest hits album, it's like everybody's favourites, just all the anthems, they're on there on one track. People have referred to this sermon, these words that we're going to start reading tonight from Jesus, as like a kind of a greatest hits of His teachings. This is amazing stuff. So, Matthew 5, 1-6. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, He went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to Him, and He began to teach them. Then there's a whole list of things which start with blessed is, blessed is, blessed is. That word blessed is not just refers to like a nice fluffy warm feeling kind of feel good today, kind of feel blessed today. It's much bigger than that, guys. It's much stronger than that. Being blessed in this sense is not something that's based on how well things have been going for me. It's a deeper thing. It's about having this contentment, this well-being in relationship with God. The sort of feeling, the sort of state that you live in, that if your boat gets rocked, it's still not the end of the world because you're blessed in your relationship with God. So it's a deep thing. So, we start off, we're blessed are the poor in spirit. We're not going to be in here. We're going to head out through the door, around the corner, and into the choir room. So, let's go. So somewhere in this room is a very small postcard-sized white envelope. Somebody needs to try and find it, open it up, and read its contents. Okay, it's been found. Nice one. Okay, so this is the first of Jesus' statements about what it is to live a blessed life. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? Anybody got any ideas? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Anybody want to offer anything there? It's good, no, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's all good. When I first read that word poor just kind of jumps out at you, doesn't it? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And the first thought might be what Grace said. It might be, is this something to do with, the people who don't have a lot of materials, kind of maybe third world people? No, it's not. It's not referring to people who don't have a lot of stuff. What is the link with all of these things that you see on the table here? What do they all have in common, guys? Never thought of that. Yes. I like that. She's correct. You win a prize. Apart from the fact that they can all be recycled, what do they have in common as they are right now? As they are right now. They're empty. They can be recycled. But in their state right now, they are empty. Okay, so this phrase, the poor in spirit, talks about people who recognise the fact that, hey, I need God's help. I don't have all the answers, and in fact, when it comes to knowing how to really live the life that honours God, I've got nothing. Just me by myself, I'm bankrupt. I've got nothing. I'm an empty vessel. I'm poor in spirit. I don't have what it takes just by myself in order to please God. The poor in spirit who will inherit the kingdom of heaven are the people who recognise that. The people who look at their lives and say, do you know what, without God, I'm just empty. I really need God. Just me by myself trying to make sense of life, trying to honour God, can't do it. Poor when it comes to that. I need his help. Often we hear people say things like, maybe they've been facing a difficult set of circumstances, and they might say something like, I just reached the end of myself, and it was then that I really felt God's help. I just reached the end of my tether, and then I found God's help. I'd run out of ideas myself. And in that place of knowing that, no, I just don't have the answers, it was then that people might say, yeah, I really need God's strength in that situation. The opposite would be to say, I'm okay, thanks. I don't need any help. I've got it all covered. I know all the answers. I've got it down. God, what do I need God for? I'm fine. I can sort it out myself.
I can do this, I can do that, it's cool, I've got it. Whereas in reality, nobody can say that. Nobody can say that. Each of us must recognise that without God, just by ourselves, we are empty. And here's the beautiful thing. When we do recognise that, and when we do say, I need you, God, Jesus actually says, you're blessed. When you reach that point and you say, without him I don't have anything, you're blessed. Because then you realise, I need God. God, and you reach out to him. God, come into my life. It's then, Jesus says, you inherit the kingdom of heaven. Now, I don't want you guys to get to the point where you say, I've run out of ideas, I've reached the end of myself, and then I found that. I want you to go for God before you get to that point. Before you kind of try all these different avenues, trying all this hard effort, go to him before you get there. Recognise now with me that, man, I need him so bad. I'm poor in spirit without him. I don't have the answers. I don't have anything to please God until he comes and shows me. So that's the poor in spirit. An example of someone like that might be, do you remember the woman who had the bleeding problem in the scriptures? She's been bleeding for years and years and years. And in that culture, that was really shameful, because if she had an open wound like that, she wouldn't be allowed to come into a gathering like this. You know, kept on the fringes. Imagine living like that for years. She was desperate. And one day, as Jesus was passing through, she just reached out in faith, just any sort of touch, grabbed his coat, edge of his cloak, hoping to be healed. And she was. She realised that she needed him. She was poor in spirit. Just a touch of Jesus' cloak. She received her healing, didn't she? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Okay, next we're going into Morris's room. I'm trying to remember where I put envelope number 2. So, settled the fly with an envelope in Morris's room. We need to find it.
Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted.
So that's the second one of these kind of blessed statements from Jesus, keys to what it is to live a blessed life. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. What does it mean to mourn?
Feel really sad.
Feel really sad, yeah. What other words might you use? What kind of sadness?
Heartbroken.
When do we sometimes use this word mourning? You know, they're in mourning.
When someone's died.
Someone died, yeah. So it's more than just kind of feeling sad. It's a deep grief, isn't it? You know, when you lose a family member, you're in mourning. It's not just, I'm feeling pretty sad about this. It's kind of deep. It's real, painful. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. So is Jesus saying that when we grieve the loss of a loved one, we'll get comforted? Well, yeah, he is the God of comfort, but that's not actually what he's going for here. The mourning that he's talking about here is not the mourning that we have when we lose, you know, our granny or our granddad. It's this deep sense of just being cut to the heart about sin. It's this deep sense of just, man, sin is just so horrible when you think about it, because God is so loving and so holy, and sin just makes a mockery of all the beautiful stuff that he's done for us. We get into a point in our lives where we realise that, and we actually start to say, I don't want to sin. In fact, I want to learn to hate sin, because that stands for everything that is against my God. Blessed are those who mourn. If we reach that point in our lives where we feel like, I don't want to sin. I don't want to hurt my God. I don't want to go against the plans that my God has for me. Jesus says if we reach that place of mourning about sin, we will be comforted. Wow. Again, it's kind of wrapped up in our realising that actually we need God. And that we need to receive his forgiveness. Sin is a bit just like, it's just a bit of crap really, isn't it? These shoes were awesome when they were first given to me. These are Oakleys, and they're actually Paul Oakley's Oakleys. Paul Oakley is a worship leader, and my friend Damien is great mates with him. And I don't know if there was some promotion because of his surname or what, but he got loads of pairs of Oakleys and didn't want them. And so one day I went round Damien's house. Do you want a pair of Oakleys? They're Paul Oakley's Oakleys. Yeah, cool, okay. So I got these shoes for free, 60, 70 quid, brand new. I got them for nothing. And when I had them to begin with, they were beautiful, they were awesome, they were brilliant, nice and clean, great fit. They stink bad now. And they are filthy. You can't even see the true colour because of the scummy mud that's on it. That's sin in God's world. Perfect creation. And sin is just like dog dirt on it. Real messy. Just making it, it's just ruined. And so if we can get this idea that sin is that, I don't know if you've ever thought of sin like that before. Maybe you just, it's just like bad stuff. No, it's way worse than that. It actually required that Jesus would die to pay the price of it. It's serious. It's horrible. Jesus said when we get to this point where we feel like that about sin, where it actually hurts us inside to think like, man, sin is so anti my God. It's so against everything that my God wants. When we get to that point, he says we'll be comforted. Because we realise just how wonderful God is and how amazing it is to be forgiven. The comfort that he's referring to, he went on to secure on the cross, didn't he? When he died, he paid the price of all of mankind's sins so that we can now be comforted. And the amazing thing for you and me is we should have that smeared all over us. You should be eating that dog dirt. I should be eating that. I don't think. But seriously, that's what we should get. But he's so full of love, he says, actually, when you realise just how horrible sin is, and you realise your need to have sin dealt with, you'll be comforted. So you can trade your crappy shoes for Morris's slippers. They're actually Hazel's. You know, it's like when you, in the winter, that's good on your foot. Much more comfortable, much nicer. When we realise how horrible sin is, we can come to God and confess the fact that, man, I know I've hurt you with the stuff I've done, and I don't want to hurt you. I want to live for you. He doesn't say, sorry. Actually, no, he doesn't hold your arm's length. Through his cross, he says, be forgiven, be comforted, and trade your crap for something a lot better. Okay, back to the youth room, part 3. There's another envelope somewhere in the youth room.
Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit.
Awesome. Next one is, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. That's a word that, I don't know about you, but I never use this word meek. You know, does anybody know what it means? Is it like 2 weeks? 2 weeks is a meek? No.
Midweek.
Midweek. No, I'm going to use it in that context. Meek, it's a weird word and nobody uses it. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. So what is a meek person? Because they're going to inherit the earth. That sounds like a pretty good deal. Well, this word meek means being gentle and being humble. Not showy, not bravado, all about me. It's not those who kind of want their own way all the time and they push their own agenda. We've all met people, some of us have been these people, who kind of force others to go down a certain route because it would please us. We kind of pressure people to make sure that our outcomes are the outcomes. Are you following me? That's not meek. Meek is the opposite. Meek is someone who is gentle, someone who is humble, someone who looks for the needs of others and trusts God with the outcome of the situation. So on one hand, you've got someone who wants to come in and bully the situation because I want to make sure that what I want to happen happens. So I'm coming in here strong. You know, these guys are just going to do what I want. But the meek person says, I'm just going to trust God with this. Whatever the outcome will be, I'm going to trust that God's got it covered. I'm going to try and be humble. I'm not going to be steamrolling over anybody here with my attitude. I'm going to be humble. I'm going to be looking out for their needs and trust God with the outcome. And if you're like that, Jesus says you're blessed because that's the sort of person who inherits the earth. The whole idea of the thing being in the present there was to show that This inheritance is a gift. The people of God, you and me, are going to be receiving the earth. You and I are going to be receiving a place with God in eternity. And here's something to blow your minds. The Bible says that you and I will judge angels. You ever read that before? You and I will actually, in the judgment, when God looks at the lives of everybody, you and I will be given the privilege of judging angels. Becky Carson, you're probably going to judge an angel. How mad is that? Gravy chip right there. It's going to be looking at the life of this angelic being. And because of what God has done for Becky, she's going to have the privilege, the gift, the inheritance, part of which means she's going to be judging an angel. That is absolutely mad. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Let's not be me-centered people. Let's be God-centered. Jesus' way was to look for the needs of us. He could have come in, couldn't he, as God, and steamrolled over every situation like that. Open your Bible and look at Matthew chapter 26. There's only one more to go after this, so don't worry if you're... Matthew 26. Matthew 26. Jesus could have come in and steamrolled over every situation and just bossed it with his power. But he was gentle and humble. The definition of meek. Matthew chapter 26, verse 50. Matthew 26, verse 50. Jesus is just about to be arrested. Judas has just betrayed him. And in verse 50 of Matthew 26, this is what we read. Jesus replied to Judas. Verse 50 of Matthew chapter 26. So he's just been arrested. He's about to be arrested. Judas has just betrayed him. And this is what happens. Jesus replies to Judas, "Do what you came for, friend." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. So it's kicking off, right? Peter's basically just slashed somebody's ear off. Jesus says, "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him. "For all who draw the sword will die by the sword." Then listen to this. "Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels?" I could do this, and there'd be 120,000 angels appearing right now to fight for me. No problem, I could do that. But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen this way? Jesus was a perfect example of what it is to be meek. He didn't come in and force his own agenda with his power. He was working the way the Father wanted him to work. Could have done that, and a whole crowd of angels could have showed up. But he looked past himself, just as he prayed in Gethsemane, "Not my will, but your will." And that's the challenge for you and me, to not just be me-centered, but to look for the needs of others ahead of our own, and to trust God with the outcome. And you think, well, isn't that a bit weak? Not the people that I read about, and the people that I see on the TV, strong people who come in and just boss it. Well, yeah, but think about the inheritance that you're going to get. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Lastly, we'll go downstairs into the kitchen. So this is the fourth one, and it's our final one tonight. Blessed are those who hunger, hence the table laid for dinner. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. So what is righteousness? Well, it refers to what is just totally and utterly right and good. There's nothing wrong about righteousness. Everything is right. There's justice in there, there's purity in there, there's holiness in there. That's what righteousness means. And so when you think about that, the only place that true righteousness can be found is where? In God. in God. Because righteousness is totally right. It's not like 9 out of 10, it's 10 out of 10. It's perfect, it's beautiful, it's pure, it's justice. And that can only truly ever really be found in God. And so Jesus says, if people are hungry for that, if people are hungry to want to live a life that honours God and is righteous, they will be able to do that. They will be filled. So the challenge for you and me is to get an appetite. Unfortunately, girls, there's no food for you on the plates there. But the challenge... Snooky's hungry. Sorry. I'm sure he could whistle up some sort of desserts. The challenge for you and I is to get hungry for more of God. Really hungry. Not just like I want to nibble on a Sunday. Or I want a 5-minute snack in the morning when I'm looking at my Bible. No. The challenge is to say, I so want more of you in my life, God. I want to be hungry for experiencing more of you. I'm hungry for your righteousness, your perfect nature having its way in my life. Those of us who know that we can never have that righteousness apart from knowing God, if we get to that point where we can say, again, it's all about God. I must turn to God. If we have that kind of hunger, Jesus says we'll be filled. One of the keys to having this blessed life is realising that the answers are all found in God. So if I know that, the challenge is to go after that, to be hungry for that. Acts 4. People still got their Bibles? Acts chapter 4. Acts 4.
Dr. John.
And this is something that Morris actually referred to in the service tonight. For those of you who were there. Peter and John and the other disciples have just been arrested for telling people, hey, Jesus rose from the dead. Jesus really is who he said he is. You guys need to know Jesus. They've been arrested for that because the religious leaders hate it. So Acts chapter 4, verse 18. The religious leaders have called these guys back in front of them. They called them in again and commanded them not to speak or teach at all in the name of Jesus. But Peter and John replied, what's right in God's eyes, to listen to you or to him? You be the judges. As for us, we cannot help speaking about what we've seen and heard. These guys are hungry for more of God. They're on trial. They've been arrested for speaking about Jesus. And they say, I can't help it. He is who he says he is. I've just got to have more of him. I've got to share what I know of him with others. After further threats, they let them go. They could not decide how to punish them because all the people were praising God for what had happened. For the man who was miraculously healed was over 40 years of age. Peter had healed a man in Jesus' name. On their release, so they've just come out of prison. They go and meet with their friends. This is what happens. Peter and John went back to their own people, reported all that the chief priests and the elders had said to them. And then look at this for hunger. When they heard this, they raised their voices together in prayer to God. They didn't pack up, leave town and say, do you know what, we're going to get arrested if we carry on here. It's going to cost us. So let's quit. I'm really not that hungry. No. They were so hungry for more of God. When they heard this, they raised their voices together in prayer to God. Sovereign Lord, they said, you made the heavens and the earth. Skip on through to verse 27. No, actually, skip all that. Basically, they're saying here, God, you made everything. You know, we can trust in you. You are so much more powerful than our rulers. And then verse 30, stretch out your hand to heal and perform signs and wonders through the name of your holy servant Jesus. These men were so hungry for more of God. They've just been arrested for speaking about Jesus. And yet here they are praying, Lord, stretch out your hand to heal and perform signs and wonders through the name, just been told not to say this name, of your holy servant Jesus. These guys were hungry for more of God. And Jesus says, if you and I get to that place of being hungry for more of God, he will fill that hunger. He will meet with us. He will show us what it really is to live a blessed life. So get hungry. Ask God for more of His work in your life. That's it. It's not some kind of rocket science where you have to do X for 30 days, you have to read this for 7 weeks in a row. No, it's very simple. If you want more of God in your life, you want to be hungry for more of God in your life, ask Him for more. You might be sitting there thinking, do you know what? I don't feel like asking for more of God. I feel like that a lot of the time too. So in that moment, do you know what I pray? It's a really complicated theological prayer. I say, God, I'm not hungry right now, but I kind of like to be. Can you work in my heart so that I actually want you more than I do? Simple. That's the sort of prayer God loves. It's not a long-winded, fancy-worded thing. It's just honest. God, right now I just feel rubbish. I don't feel like I want more of you. But I don't want to stay in that place because I know that more of you is best for my life. And that's how you have a blessed life. So the final thought of this, before we head upstairs and finish, you've heard that to have a blessed life means to realise that you're poor in spirit. So I don't have the answers, God, and without you I have nothing. When we reach that place, actually, we're on the right track. The next one was that blessed are those who mourn, and they'll be comforted. When we get to that point where we just feel like sin is just such an offence to God, I hate it. God, I'm so sorry for the wrong stuff that I've done. When we reach that place, you're blessed because you realise that you need to be forgiven. And you will be when you come to Jesus. And then the third one was, blessed are the meek. It's not about getting my way, I'm the centre of attention. No, it's about trusting in God with my life and looking to serve and help others. And lastly, whenever you realise that knowing God is key and whether we hunger for more of Him in our lives, again, that's how to live a blessed life, because God will meet you in that and show you what it means. The worst thing that could happen after this talk tonight is for you guys to go away and think, I just need to try harder then, right? To have this blessed life, I just need to try harder. That'd be the worst thing you could probably do, because it's not about trying harder at all. All it is about more harder. I need you, God, and I want your plan for my life. So I'm just going to trust in you, Jesus, and trust in your plans for me. It's not about trying harder. If you're just thinking knowing God is about your effort and trying to do this, trying to read this many passages, I'm sorry you missed it. All it is about is very simply saying, without you I'm nothing. I'm empty without you. So, can I have you? Will you take me? Will you lead me in this life? Just snap your hand off. That's the sort of person God wants to be leading in His kingdom building project. At that time, it's about realising the greatness of God. That's the key to a blessed life, folks. 3 more to come in 2 weeks' time. But for now, let's head up to the youth room.